Hello, I'm Jill Webster and I'm here in Darug Country, New South Wales, Australia, with a Kamishibai story that I've been working on. It's called Go and Keep on Going. Bill had not always been a grumpy old man. Oh no, he had once been a young man with merely grumpy tendencies. That is, until the cockatoos came. Now, his wife Mary, she reckoned that those cockatoos were only after a feed. But Bill knew better. He knew that they were the juvenile delinquents of the avian world, and any time he saw a cockatoo in his garden, he would shake his fist at it and shout, "Go! And keep on going!" They would go for a while, but those cheeky cockatoos would come back week after week to destroy his children's trampoline, month after month, to make a terrible mess of the washing. And year after year, even when Bill thought that he had solved the problem, when he'd protected his precious plum trees with fancy netting, well, those cheeky cockatoos, they'd just attack the lemon tree. Even though they don't actually eat the citrus fruits, they seem to just enjoy leaving a blanket of destruction across Bill's carefully maintained lawn. So, it was in his retirement that Bill finally found the dedication, the time, and the money to put towards this issue with the cockatoos. There had been battles over the years, but now it was war. And as he sat there scheming through plans with his anti-roosting spikes, his wife Mary, who had herself faced some serious battles over the years and who was now facing a war of her own, she would sometimes look up at those cockatoos and say, "You know, Bill, I know they're a pest, but you've got to admit they are quite an attractive bird." What? I mean, I know they're annoying, but you've got to admire how clever they are, how resourceful, how resilient. They are quite beautiful. Clever, resourceful, resilient, beautiful. These birds are a menace. They are mean. They are malicious. Mary, I can't believe you could say such things. You know, Bill, it's quite possible to feel two things at the same time, you know. Sometimes even more. It is very possible to be very annoyed by something and still love it. But Bill felt exactly one thing, and it was not admiration for the cockatoos. And so, Bill set to work, nailing his anti-roosting spikes to every flat surface he could reach. "There, Mary, now we're going to get you some peace and some quiet. No more of these cockatoos squawking overhead every night at dusk. Some peace and quiet." And you know, for a brief moment of time, there was peace and quiet. What Bill didn't realise was that it was because those cockatoos had their mouths full. They realised that anti-roosting spikes make a really good nesting material, and so they'd ripped up every last piece. When Bill found out, he was furious. He raced to the garden shed. He got out his high-pressure water washer. He clicked it onto the hose, plugged it in, dragged it over to the trees, and he blasted those cockatoos with a force and a fury that was terrible to behold. It shocked the cockatoos. It shocked Mary. Truth be told, it even shocked Bill himself. I'm sorry. Mary, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just want you to have some peace. Mary, I just want you to have some quiet. I just want to fix things for you, Mary. I know, Bill. I know. But Bill learnt too soon that there's such a thing as too much peace and too much quiet, and that there are some things that cannot be fixed. And as the days and weeks and months rolled on, Bill found himself feeling utterly lost in his own backyard. His children, who were now adults, were very worried about Bill, and they would visit often. They tried to encourage him to get out and about. Now, when they mentioned that perhaps he should go to the local lawn bowling club and join up, he perhaps didn't say no, or perhaps he just shrugged his shoulders. Whatever he did or did not say, his kids took that as permission. They got enthusiastic and they bought him the outfit, they bought him the equipment, and they signed him up to some beginners classes at the local bolo. He looked ridiculous. He felt ridiculous. He was ridiculous. And he found himself once more in his own back garden. He didn't know if he could face going back to the bolo again. Mary was the one who knew how to talk to people. Mary was the one who knew what to do. Mary brought the sunshine. Bill just tried to fix things for her. I don't know what to do, he said out loud. And then he heard the fluttering of wings. And he found himself face to face with a sulphur-crested cockatoo. Bill didn't even have it in him to shake his vest. He just said once more, I don't know what to do. Go! And keep on going! So Bill went, and he kept on going. And week after week, his game started to improve. Month after month, he even managed to make a few new friends. And year after year, Bill realised that Mary was right. Of course Mary was right. There were times He would catch a glimpse of an empty chair and he would feel that emptiness to his very bones. But he'd also be surrounded by his chattering children and the bouncing, giggling grandkids, and yes, even the squawking cockatoos. And he'd think of Mary and how she'd say to him, "You know, Bill, you can feel two things at the same time, sometimes even more." And he did. And he realised something else too, that you can find a kind of peace, even when it's not very quiet at all. Thank you for listening to my story. Had some other people listening too. Well, not people. Thanks for listening, kangaroos. Bye.